Hi, welcome to Straight Talk. I want to welcome all of our new viewers to Straight Talk and let you know that our job here is to give you information to make your lives better and our communities better. And today we're going to talk about an issue that's affecting every single community that's watching this show, and that's our nation's heroin and opiate epidemic. And it's something that is destroying lives. More people are dying because of heroin and opiates than die in car crashes in this country. That's how bad this problem is, and it doesn't discriminate. And we're going to find out today the impact that this epidemic is having on women. We don't hear much about women and the heroin epidemic, women going to treatment, and we're going to learn a lot about the impact it has on women from someone who's been there herself. Colleen Waterfield is joining us, and we're happy to have you, Colleen, on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really
Thank you.
appreciate
We
it.
really appreciate you sharing your story and the knowledge you have and the great work you're doing to give information back to other addicts. So thanks. So let's get started kind of at the beginning.
Sure.
You are a recovering addict.
Correct, I am.
You got involved pretty early on, I would imagine.
Unfortunately,
Tell us a little
yes.
bit about your story.
Sure. So, I grew up in a pretty dysfunctional family. In that regard, we were just pretty separate, very much different. I have an older sister. She's pretty clean cut, and here comes the rebel child. I grew up in a small town of Arbutus. And I think as young as I can remember, I was a pretty upset kid. Didn't really ever find my place in the world, never really understood who I truly was. I was bullied a lot when I was younger. I had like buck teeth and freckles and like strawberry blonde hair, so I didn't really fit, the stigma. And around as I continued to grow, I got into the party scene. Starting about 13 years old is when I first tried my first drug, which was marijuana and alcohol. And immediately when I had tried them, it was like, wow, I'm outgoing. I feel pretty. I fit in. And it just continued to grow. I mean, I can honestly say from that first time, from that first hit and that first sip, it was like, this is it. This is that feeling that I've always tried to reach, and the confidence that I always wanted to have. And as I continued to get older, the drugs got harder. I struggled. I was very rebellious. I think a lot of that stemmed from the bullying. I started to grow up. I started to, mold myself into the stigma, if you will. And I started to, become a pretty violent, pretty angry person. And once again, I think, I really didn't know my place in the world. So I went on to harder drugs, ecstasy, cocaine, into my senior year of high school. I barely graduated by the skin of my teeth. I had actually started out in a Catholic high school, pretty much was asked to leave because of my behaviors and my drug use and drinking during school hours, and to me it was just like, they don't understand, like I party really hard. I don't have a problem. And truth was, and really I didn't know at that time that the problem was already almost full blown. I had went through some pretty traumatic experiences in high school that led me to go deeper in, to numb a lot of feelings. And by the age of 20, I was full into Percocets. And
So you went from high school, where you were just starting to get harder drugs,
absolutely
stronger drugs, and then when you left high school, then you really...
It just really took off.
Yeah.
I was really big into sports in high school, but my grades weren't up to par, so therefore I couldn't participate in sports. So at that point in my senior year, that's when the drugs started to get harder, I started to go to parties a lot. And I pretty much just partied my way through high school. So when I exited high school, I didn't really exit on the best foot. There was no sports. I really even looked at sports as an obsession. It was like if I didn't have something to do or something to obsess over, then the drugs, were sufficing. And basically, I got into a crowd. I was told about pills. I tried pills. I got really sick. I started to use from that first day, it really tore me up. I went, by the end of before my first rehab trip, I was in and out of hospitals. My body was pretty much just falling apart. I was doing up to 12 to 15 Percocets a day.
And Percocet is pretty much like heroin.
Absolutely.
You hear a lot about Oxycontin.
Yes, they call it like the synthetic heroin,
Yeah.
almost. And
Right.
you know, I remember like when I was starting to get harder into it, people kept saying like, you know, you have a problem. And truth is, back then, even like going through high school, I can't really recall them talking about addiction much. And you know, where I was on the other side of town, like when I was growing up, I wasn't always in the best high school. And it was really the people that I chose. It wasn't anything about the high school. So when I got out and I was surrounding myself with these people, you know, like I said, I started to get really sick and I started to use alone. And I started to go into places where I shouldn't have been going. And before my first treatment center, I was about 95 pounds.
Wow.
I was in the hospital. I had a severe kidney infection that had moved into my bloodstream. And I had, because here I am self-medicating, I couldn't even take care of myself. You know, my hygiene was poor. You know, my hair was falling out. I just looked like The Walking Dead. And literally I was so dead inside, you know, especially
Were you doing heroin at this
spiritually.
point?
And not at this point. And then
Still
I entered.
just doing the Percocet.
Absolutely. And then
Wow.
I entered into treatment, and I really wasn't fully prepared. My parents were kind of taken back. You know, when I was at the hospital, I decided to get honest, and I turned 21 on August 1st, and I went in 6 days later. And I spent my time in a 30-day inpatient. I didn't take it seriously at all. I was very scared still, very broken. I really didn't see that this was a problem. I thought it was just like a point in my life. And after I exited there, I tried heroin for my first time.
Wow. Let's just take a break there. I mean, it's an amazing story.
Thank you.
Very common probably,
And
but it's
more
an
than
amazing story to be able to go through all that and come out where you are today, which we'll talk more about later.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you should be commended for what you went through.
Thank you.
Thank God you survived. I mean,
Every day.
I'm sure you probably could have died dozens of times throughout that experience. But,
Yes.
you know, I wanted the people to hear your story. We're going to take a break and come back, and I want to talk about, you talked about going to treatment.
Yes.
And about women going to treatment, you know, and how difficult that is or isn't, and what's available,
Okay.
and what you went through.
Okay, sure.
So hang in there.
Okay.
I appreciate you being here.
No
and we're
problem.
talking with Colleen Waterfield, who is really helping a lot of people. So hang in there, okay? When we come back to Straight Talk, we're going to keep talking with Colleen about her addiction, about women's addiction, and what you can do to help someone you care about. That's what this is all about. Stay with us. We're coming right back to Straight Talk.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Find fun activities to do, like boating and biking, or camping and hiking, plus much more. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org. Don't allow your weight to threaten your health or control your future. Excess weight, or obesity, can cause emotional and physical health risks. But you can take control. The Your Weight Matters campaign offers free resources and tips to help you measure and understand your weight. Take the Your Weight Matters Challenge. The free toolkit prepares you to speak with a healthcare provider about your weight. Your weight does matter. Take the challenge and take control today.
Hi, welcome back to Straight Talk. Again, I want to welcome our new viewers and let you know that we're talking about the heroin and opiate epidemic and its impact on women. And Colleen Waterfield is joining us. She's telling us her story of addiction and recovery.
Absolutely.
I want to say. And also want to mention that you are now working in the field.
Yes, I am.
You're working at the Maryland Addiction Recovery Center, helping others. And we'll talk some about what you're doing there later. But I want people to know that what they're hearing from you is an unbelievable story.
Thank you.
But here you are coming out the other end helping people, and that's wonderful. We're talking about your history. You started when you were young. You started with pot, ended up doing Percocet, then doing heroin. I mean, you went the whole gamut, you know, right up the ladder. Then you started going into rehabs. Now, we talk about women in treatment and how hard it is for women to either find treatment or they don't want to go to treatment. What was it like for you? And what do you, and also what do you see with women and their either refusal to go or they don't want to go? What are those barriers?
So I think a lot of the barriers, I mean, most common is children and wives. Through being in treatment myself and working in treatment, I see a lot of women struggle to make that first call, but I'm a mother. But I have children I have to take care of. But I have a husband that I have to tend to, or, and that seems to always be the most common. And the sad part is, they don't quite see that, like, at that stage, like, sometimes we're not really mothers and sometimes we're not really wives, but you're important too. And I think, as a woman in recovery, we just becoming so broken and the shame and guilt, overrides us, just dealing in my personal story with, explaining to my parents. It was just like my mother was, I remember the words of my mother saying, but you can't be an addict. It was almost like she didn't understand. And as I continued in treatment, I would see far less women than there were men. And I think that a lot of that stems from, being mothers, being wives, almost like it's afraid to come out that, like, I'm a woman and I'm addicted to drugs. And, another thing could be body image issues. It can be, trauma related. I see a lot of that too, the self-medication. And, but I don't have a problem because you're so self-medicated and you're so into this almost delusional world that, like, if I come off of these, who am I going to become? Am I just going to be a shell of a person still because you're so broken? And those are truly the barriers that I see a lot with working.
Do you see women, are they afraid that they'll lose their children and lose their husbands so they can't afford to take care of themselves?
Usually that is what I see, mostly more common with the women with children. But I don't have anywhere to take my child. Right. Some of them don't have family, or the husband almost shuns them, sometimes, or sometimes they're very supportive, but the wife's like, but my children can never know, or it has to do with the community that they're surrounding themselves with. But what will my friends think? But, because you look at a mother and she's nurturing and she's caring, and when you hear that she's on drugs or she's an alcoholic, it's like, well, oh my,
not my daughter.
Yes, not my mom.
Like women aren't supposed to have problems.
Absolutely.
And take care of themselves.
Absolutely. Like, you're supposed to, tend to the house duties, or you're providing for the family as well, or, you're taking care of your kids. You have to be the one to, read them a bedtime story.
And they probably think they might lose their kids. If you're a single mother and you go into treatment, you have to have that fear that something's going to happen to your kids. And I can imagine there's not many programs where a woman can go in with her kids.
Through my experience, of living in a recovery house and working in treatment, that's a common question that comes up. Well, what am I going to do after the fact? Where am I going to stay with my kids, during this time? And it's almost like, trying to convince them like everything's going to be okay, because it is if you continue to put in this hard work. But at the end of the day, that is one of the biggest problems. But I'm going to lose my children, because in this day and age that can happen, and it's so realistic. And at the same time, it's like, because the heroin epidemic has gotten so big, it's like the help is there more, though, that I've seen from when I first
People
became
seem
into
to be
recovery.
more aware.
Absolutely.
And we're seeing more programs open up to help people.
Absolutely.
I agree with you. I think the public is well informed that we've got a big medical problem here.
Absolutely.
And we have to do something about it. But the question is, are we doing enough for women? Because I don't know what the statistics are, but I would imagine as the numbers go up for everyone, that's going to go up for women too.
I believe it has.
Now you work in a rehab center
Yes.
here, at Maryland Addiction Recovery Center. Are you seeing more women come in?
Yes, absolutely. When I first came into recovery and I first started working at MARC, I saw a lot less women. And as the doors are continuing to open and we're expanding, the amount of women that are reaching out is phenomenal to me, and their mothers and their wives and their young women. And some of them are basically still children, and it's like a beautiful thing to watch that. You're not alone, and that's the biggest thing I think for anyone in recovery, but especially women, that we're a power together, and that we can strive and we can be successful, and we don't have to let this define us.
But you said before something interesting, that they say they want to be mothers, they have to be mothers and wives, but when they're addicts, they're not very good mothers and they're not very good wives, are they?
No, and that's the truth. And
but they think they are.
Yes, and once again, that takes it back to the nature of addiction. We think we're okay. We think we're solving our problems. We think we're truly better people with the substances, and truth is, you're really not tending to the needs, and you're not taking care of them, let alone yourself.
Now you went into rehab probably a couple times before? You said you weren't ready at first, and that's probably common for a lot of people, women included, but that they go in and they're just not ready.
Mine was ultimately like ultimatum from my family. It's either go to treatment or be homeless.
Right.
And as I did have many rehab trips. But as I continued to go in, and I can honestly say, even through every trip, especially the last, the women were what held me together. When I would get off track, being a young woman in recovery, sometimes, you want that acceptance, you want that validation from a man, like I'm pretty, right? Like I'm acceptable member of society. And when I focused on that, I always went off track.
Right.
And obviously a lot of other factors, played into that. But once I stuck with the women and the bond that you hold together, because there are depths that you go to that men don't go to.
That kept you going.
That kept me,
Yeah.
that kept the hope and the faith that I can, I'm worth it.
I'm okay.
I'm a woman, and it's beautiful to be in recovery.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
And you're a beautiful person, and it's just wonderful that you're here and giving back,
I
and
appreciate
helping other people, and I think that's important. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I want to talk more about the rehab program, what's available, what's good for people through your experience, okay?
Sure,
Thanks again.
absolutely. Thank
Hang in
you.
there. When we come back to Straight Talk, we're going to continue talking with Colleen Waterfield about her own addiction and recovery and what you can do to help someone you care about. So stay with us. We're coming right back to Straight Talk.
I just need a second.
Is your weight holding you back? Are everyday tasks getting harder and harder to do?
Did you see this? Your cousin's in the hospital from a heart attack.
Really?
Health risks associated with excess weight or obesity can be serious. But you can do something about it.
I know you're worried. I found this.
Take the Your Weight Matters Challenge. Visit yourweightmatters.org, where you'll find free resources to help you take control. You can start improving your life right away. Download the free toolkit to prepare you to speak with a healthcare provider about your weight and health. Your weight does matter. Accept the challenge and take charge today. Visit yourweightmatters.org.
I had big plans. I had my career path all planned out. While I was on a combat patrol in Bakuba, Iraq, a rocket-propelled grenade took my arm off at the shoulder. When I came home, I felt alone. My family was around me, but I couldn't talk to them about what I'd seen and what I'd done. I remember just thinking, man, the way I am right now, I don't want to live. I was discharged from the Army, and I've been working with the Wounded Warrior Project since 2007. Warriors don't have to be severely wounded to be with the Wounded Warrior Project. We do have a lot of guys that have post-traumatic stress disorder. Being able to share your story, I guess it kind of helps you wrap your mind around what did happen over there. Just because you've left the military doesn't mean your life is over. Because when these guys are coming home, I'm kind of leading and training them. Instead of for combat, I'm leading and training them to heal. If I come away with anything from Wounded Warrior Project, it's them giving my life back. My name is Norby, and yes, I do suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, but I'm okay.
Hi, welcome back to Straight Talk. We're talking with Colleen Waterfield about addiction. Her addiction, she's in recovery. She's a woman who's fought hard for her sobriety, and she's been clean and helping others now. Colleen, thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having
Thank
me.
you for the work that you do. We're talking about treatment. You know, you got to that point where you went in several times, and we know that happens with addicts, that they've got to reach that point where, but they're learning something all the time, and one time it finally kicks in.
Yes.
And it did for you, and you went through and you got clean. You've been clean for several years.
Yes.
Which is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And now you're helping others. When we get somebody into treatment, we always talk about, well, it's residential treatment. And that means what? They live there.
Yes, correct. So we have like a community living component of MARC, and basically we have it, we house a certain amount of patients, and they do intensive, outpatient throughout the day, Monday through Friday. Hours of group, gender specific, which, like we've been talking about, women, but also men, being separated to really address the issues between men and women and having that bond that we've been talking about, and also living together in that type of environment and having that safe place to make mistakes, because you're going to make mistakes, but also to have that 24/7 support, especially needed.
Yeah, and that's off the street.
Absolutely.
Now you're getting you're away from all the negativity and the people that want to hurt you and get you to use again. Now you're in a positive. And that goes on for about a month or so.
Correct.
And then you go into another phase. Is that how that works?
So throughout our residential program, when you come in, really focus, they set you up with the treatment plan, the therapist, to really focus on the main, priorities of your treatment program.
Right.
And then as you continue to grow in there and you continue, we give them enough freedom that they can still know what it's like to be in society. But like I said, come back to have that support, and then eventually they'll move forth. They'll start to get back in contact with their families, work on family dynamics, because, it's very important. And then eventually moving to the vocational process where they begin job searching.
Now, the recovery house, halfway house, recovery house, they're all over. It's a very big thing right now for people. They're important. How important are they?
In my personal opinion, in my recovery, it was one of the biggest heartbeats that I had.
Because you had a place to live with people who were also in recovery.
Absolutely.
Who supported you.
Absolutely. I was surrounded by love. And once again, I made mistakes, but I had these women that were there 24/7 to hold me up and support me and, hold me accountable, because my behaviors weren't always correct. And, it's like a big family. It's like a second home.
And you go to a recovery house, and there's, 5, 8, 10 people that live there or something, whatever.
It could be more. Mine had 14.
Okay, so 14. And then everybody's staying clean, everyone's getting a job, everyone's paying rent. So you're really working your way back into society.
Yes, you're learning how to take care of yourself in everyday life.
Right.
Having somebody there, and incorporating recovery and learning how to balance those, because it's not always that easy, because we do have responsibilities.
Now you work with a lot of call them alumni, people that have been through the program that want to stay clean. They've been in a recovery house. They've gone through the whole process but you somehow keep them connected because they need that.
I mean,
we have AA, NA,
Absolutely.
lots of support groups, but you're working with alumni to keep them connected.
yes. So one of the things that you see a lot when patients are in the house is how much they can't wait to help and come back to that treatment facility that helped them. So basically what the alumni program does is give former patients that opportunity to give back, to come and pick the patients up and take them out and show them, like, I've been literally exactly where you were, and here I am today, and I'm clean and I'm sober and I'm doing life, because that's usually what we don't know how to do. We don't know how to do life. And it's really the alumni that create it. I'm just kind of there to coordinate it. It's because of their passion and their drive to help others that they make this program possible. And in the process, they help everybody that comes through those doors, including, the program overall. Like, if it wasn't for them, what's our purpose,
Right, you just kind of,
They are the future.
Well, they go through and then they're out. They're dumped out in society,
Yes,
not prepared.
absolutely.
And it's a fascinating thing because it probably helps the alumni as much as it helps the new people in the program.
Yes,
Because
because
you're kind of giving it away, but meanwhile it's helping you.
yes, and part of the alumni program, we assign, when a patient comes in and they're in that admission process and they're scared and they're fragile, we assign them alumni to contact, and the alumni are aware that these patients could call you at any time and they may need to be taken to a meeting, or they just need a helping hand.
Now, your message out there, if there's a woman out there struggling with her addiction, what do you want to tell her?
You're beautiful. You're worth it. You are just as important as anybody else. This isn't the end of the road, and you are our future, and continue and reach out and love yourself and learn to love yourself, because just because you're a woman doesn't mean you're not worth it.
And there's help out there.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, that people can find some help, no matter which city you're in. This epidemic is all over this country.
It is.
And people need to reach out and get help and look out for each other, especially the women, like you said, the mothers, the wives that people may not pay attention to. Well, you're a hero of mine. You're the best.
Thank you so
much. And I can't thank you enough for being on the show.
And thank you again.
Thanks, sure. Straight Talk, we're talking about heroin, opiates, women in treatment. Get help. If there's someone you know about that has a problem you care about, please get them help. If you have a problem, get help for yourself. I want to thank Colleen for being on the show and sharing her amazing story. I want to thank you for watching Straight Talk, and we'll see you next time.